Hey, what's going on? It's Adam here, and if you're brand new to my channel, I just want to say welcome. And if you don't know who I am a seven-figure entrepreneur, CEO and founder of the Smart Business Mastermind, and I've been behind the scenes of some of the top influencers as I've helped them strategize their businesses to grow and scale. And one of the things that I get to see are the psychology and the blocks and the behavior that holds you back from getting that next breakthrough, because we know what happens within also shows out. And so today we're going to be talking about the block of being too emotional versus intentional. Look, if you have noticed a dip in your sales and then you begin to question, oh my gosh, do I need to rework my offer? Or if you notice a dip in engagement and you're like, oh my gosh, do people even like me? If the emotions are leading the show, then we've got to talk about this. So here's the reality, is that sometimes things don't go our way in business. In fact, it's most of the time. As you launch campaigns or you spend time in your next strategic move to grow, and a lot of times you go in with great expectations. And when our results don't lead up to those expectations, we can start having those inner conversations. For example, maybe you send out an email and nobody takes advantage of your offer. You may question yourself, dang, is my offer even good? Or maybe you had a really slow sales week and you begin to wonder if maybe you need to start dropping your pricing. Or maybe you are putting out content and you're not getting the engagement you hope for, so you begin to even doubt your niche. Or you're sticking to a strategy and 3 days you have no engagement or no results, and you begin to even question if the strategy works instead of sticking through it. And so the goal here is that emotions are real, but they're not always reliable. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to help, we want data to be able to help lead your decisions. So I remember going through this phase in my own journey where I was constantly going through these highs and lows of the emotional roller coaster, because before being system driven, I was a very spirit-led entrepreneur that just kind of followed my intuition and I would kind of go with the wind. And what happens, it's like, instead of building a business, it's like emotional gymnastics. You're like bending over backwards to feelings that aren't rooted in truth. And so I had to learn how to be able to make decisions out of data. And one of the practical things that you can do, instead of saying, I feel, you can say, let's see. So for example, let's say that you put out a post and it didn't get the engagement you were hoping for. Rather than say, oh, I just feel like what I'm doing is not working, you can change it to, let's see here. What did I post that was working or that was getting engagement that I can do more of? Or let's say, for example, you had a few sales calls and you're like, man, maybe people just don't want my offer. Instead, you could say, well, let's see. Let's see where in the sales process it went wrong. Or let's see if there's anything I can improve. Let's see where the sales call is losing momentum. Instead of maybe you have a campaign that you launch and you're hoping to make sales and it didn't make the sales that you wanted to see, then you can, instead of saying, man, I just feel like this isn't going to work, I'm maybe not cut out for this, you could say, let's see what part of the campaign didn't work. So when you can start to make decisions off of data, then you can actually have more sound decisions, because there's a principle that data doesn't remove emotion, it gives emotion a place to land. I'll say that again. Data doesn't remove emotion, it gives emotion a place to land. What does that mean exactly? It means that emotions are going to be a part of this journey of business. And we want to be able to make sure that our emotions are based and rooted in truth versus emotions that are being led by our feelings. Here's the reality, is your feelings can't be the CEO of your vision. And I know I went through a season where sometimes I would just look at the results of things and go, man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if this is going to work. And every level, every entrepreneur has that inner doubt. Is this next campaign going to work? Is this next offer going to work? You know, what if the sales dip? And we can become very emotional. And what happens is if you lead your business that way, your business can only be as stable as your emotions. And so it's not only dangerous for your vision, but it also becomes a liability to your team. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to be emotional, but also be strategic. I'll say it again. We want to be emotional, but we also want to be strategic. So what are some practical things that you can do? Let's say you have the thought that says, well, this feels off. Instead, you could say, well, let's see if this is working. Or, oh, that comment hurt. We can say, well, let's see what other people feel about it to see if it's just one person or if this is really a trend that needs attention. Or, man, I hate the numbers. I'm not good at data. Well, the reality is you don't need to love data, but we got to use it. And so here are some actionable things that you can do. If you were to just take a inventory every Friday, and if something's not working in your vision, let's begin to break it down. How many messages are going out to create new connections? And if you look at that and you're not getting enough volume out, then you're not even getting yourself in position. So I have a saying that I teach in my mastermind called 25 by 12. It means 25 messages out by 12 o'clock. So if you're not getting your messages or your outreach messages out, well, then let's start there. Then of those, let's take a look and let's see how many of those are connecting. How many people are responding? Is there anything that we can do to make those messages more effective to generate more partnerships or opportunities? Let's take a look at how many people are actually seeing your offer in a week and how many sales calls you have. Of those sales opportunities, how many are actually enrolling? And if they're not enrolling, can we figure out why and ask the question, why not, so that we can get feedback to make things better? If you were to look at your content, which posts are growing your audience the most and what kind of audience is getting the least, content is getting the least kind of engagement? Let's take a look at that. How can we do things better? So the goal is to move from I feel to let's see. And as you do that better, you're going to have more stability so that you could be able to grow a strong foundation, because we know that when you lead from truth, not reaction, you're going to have way better results. And so there is a Bible verse here I want to share with you. It's Proverbs 19:2. It says, "It's not good to have zeal without knowledge, nor to be hasty and miss the way." When I hear that verse, zeal means to have a bliss, right? And so a lot of times we go into vision with this bliss, with this excitement. Like, I'm excited to launch this new thing. And when we look at that verse and it says to have zeal without knowledge, what are we basing that zeal off of? So that we're not making hasty decisions. And so when we look at the foundation and we look at the reality of the facts, then our emotions can have a place to settle on real truth versus feelings. Because at the end of the day, your emotions cannot be the CEO leading your vision. You have to lead your vision in truth, with accuracy, and make decisions from data. And as you begin to do that, you're going to begin to trust yourself more. You're going to find yourself becoming more creative, and you're going to find yourself working your way out of things that before would have destroyed you that now begin to make you. And what didn't work for you will begin to work for you, because you'll be able to see things objectively versus personally. I've been guilty of that myself. There's been times where I've taken things personal. Maybe you can relate. And so the goal is to not look at it personally, but look at it objectively. So I want to be able to wrap up here and just pray for you as we wrap up today. And my heart is just to see you be more stable, make decisions off of data, so that the lies of the enemy are not getting you to believe things that are not true, that get you in emotional spirals that have you sabotage your vision. So God, I just thank you so much for every single person that is listening today. And I just hope that you give them a sound mind, that you give them emotional courage, and that you show them what it looks like to operate in that sound mind and have stability and make decisions from the reality instead of our feelings. And sometimes the enemy, God, can try to distract or try to get people to see the wrong things. And I just pray, God, that you give them eyes to see, that they will be able to have a greater faith and a greater conviction for the vision in their heart, and that they won't be detoured by their emotions, but they will have a resilience, that they will have a boldness and a courage like never before to go after vision, and that the down days don't stop them for the destiny that you have, God. That they'll be able to move forward with purpose, with intention, with a tenacity like never before, so that their vision can come to life. We give you all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. So I hope that helped you increase today. And I have a Telegram channel called our Spirit Driven Success Network, where I train and offer free discipleship in there once a month. Sometimes I even have my wife join me in that. If you want to be a part of that channel, I'll put that in the description below so that you could be able to join us for some of those if you'd like this conversation. All right, y'all. Well, I pray this blesses you, and I hope it helps you increase today.